Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Dr. Deji Ayoade. Deji is the first African immigrant to become a nuclear missile operator in the United States Air Force and serve in 3 military branches. He is a trained veterinary surgeon, combat medic, nuclear weapons systems subject matter expert, senior program analyst, and a U.S. Space Force Department of Defense civilian at the Pentagon. His new book is called Underground, a memoir of hope, faith, and the American dream. And in this book, Deji tells the story of how he overcame an impoverished childhood in Nigeria to achieve his American dream. I am excited to have him on the show to learn how we can all achieve our dreams and learn what it truly means to find faith and purpose. So Deji, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, John. Thank you for having me.
You know, it's an honor to meet you. And I don't think we've never had anybody in the show that has served in 3 different branches. So that's pretty remarkable, first of all. And to do it as an immigrant is especially remarkable. So I'm honored to have you on the show and to learn from your experience and how you did it. So let's just start off. Your new book is called Underground, a memoir of hope, faith, and the American dream. So what compelled you to write this book? Why did you want to get this out into the world?
Thanks, John. So when we had my daughter in 2010, I thought it was important that I put together a record, of how it all began and how, because I was the first to come down here from my family in Nigeria, and I wanted to have a record for my children. So, when they get older, they're born here, they probably, I'm not sure, maybe by the time they're older, they get old and have kids, my grandkids and great grandchildren may not even look anything like me. You never know, but it'd be nice to have a record for them to go back to and know how it all began. So that was what motivated me. It wasn't supposed to be a memoir at all. And then 3 years later, we had a son, and that was when I sat down and just started writing. That I need to carry a record. So I gave it was just a draft then, and I just wanted to share with my wife. So she, I wanted her to read about the things that I probably never had talked to her about before, about my childhood and growing up and things like that. And, she read it and she was really crying. And he said, I can't believe, you went through all this. And like, how did you, stay normal and stay motivated to, and to keep moving forward, and said, you absolutely have to publish this because, there are a lot of immigrants that could really use, some of this, so at first I was hesitant, and then, I wrote a query, sent that out to literary agencies, and a lot of agents were interested. That was when I knew there was something special about the book, and I decided to, really dig in and write the book and, finish it and then publish it.
I love it. And, it's interesting. You're not the first person who has said that on our show, where it was something about leaving a positive legacy behind for their children and grandchildren that kind of sparked them to write their story. So, and I'm really glad you did. I think these stories need to be told because often you never hear of, we always see people at the top of their game after they've achieved their objectives. And we don't realize the struggles that they go through to get there. And so I think telling your story allows the people that come after you, or people that, like you say, other immigrants who are saying, wow, this is really hard. Deji seems like he's got it all together. When you can see, well, Deji, you didn't have it all together in the beginning, right? So I think it's really good to tell stories like this. I think it's really important.
You said something really important, and I think I've said it in a few of my podcasts, that it's very easy for, I think all of us as human beings just look at successful people and just be proud of them and just, kind of respect them and, make all this noise about them and just assume it's just happening like that, and I just ever consider what it might have taken for them to get that far. In my opinion, I'm thankful for what I've had the opportunity to do and how far I've come and the things I have done. But, there are people also out there that have really done wonderful things. And, things that I can't even compare mine with, but as much as I look at those people and other people do, only if we just sit down with those people and probably spend 30 minutes with them, 100, or 1 hour just to get, just a little bit of what it took to get to where they've gotten to, and what, the work they have to do and things they have to work on.
Yeah. I think we're not aware of it. We only see the mountaintops. We don't see the valleys. And I think the valleys are what make us successful. Actually, it's what we learn in the valleys that make us successful, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are your hopes? You've got the book out there now. It's been out there. What are your hopes for this book?
Honestly, my hopes for this book is to get it into as many hands as possible. I remember when I was publishing it, I asked myself, why do I publish this book? What's the whole point? And I remember, just saying, you know what, if this book isn't going to touch lives, I don't want it to work out. But if this book is going to touch lives, I want it to work out. I want to publish it, and I want the process to happen and the book to get out there and then see how many lives, that could take, that could touch, and how many people that could, spring into, working on their desires, their dreams, and, just that strength, that hope, and their faith to just keep going, no matter what they have to face. And I'm glad it's out there. I'm going to be honest, I haven't, the results so far, I think outweighs the work I think I've put in so far. The responses that I'm getting from people, the reviews that I'm getting, and, even people that sometimes, my kids just play with my name on Google and then they start showing me things, that and they say, "Oh, Daddy, you're famous." I'm like, "I'm not famous." Like, "Oh, read what they're saying about you and about your book." It's like, "Oh, okay, that's true." Sometimes I have to remind myself that I actually have a book out there.
Yeah.
But because I'm busy thinking of something, something else, and so I pray and I hope that it continues to touch lives, and I really hope it does really well, so that my number one goal is that all proceeds from that book, goes towards scholarships, for students that were just like me when I came to the US, and medical students as well. So hopefully it does well enough so that we're able to do more, get more out of what we try to do with the book.
I love that. That's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about your story. I mean, what was it like growing up in Nigeria, and how did you ever spark a dream to come to the U.S. and do what you did? That's really curious to me, because I think it'd be interesting, because I was looking through the book and to paint the picture of what it's like, and like life expectancy, who goes to college, what's life like in Nigeria? Paint the picture for us of what your life was like.
Yeah, that's very broad, but let me paint it like this. I'll start with how it started for me. So I was born in Lagos, and I was raised in Lagos. And when people hear Lagos almost sounds like New York. It's a very popular place. But I grew up on the outskirts of Lagos. It was one of the most remote areas, like towns. I grew up in a town that no one knew about. In fact, I remember when we moved out there, I checked the map of Lagos and I couldn't even find where we lived. On the map. It didn't even exist on the map. I always how remote, the place was. And I remember there was only one primary school, which is equivalent to elementary schools there. There was only one primary school and only one high school, secondary school. And all the kids in the entire town went to that same school. the schools ranked very poorly. I think my school, especially my high school, was probably one of the lowest in the entire country. And Nigeria is a big country, with a lot of schools and a very educated country. There are a lot of smart people from a lot of really good schools, let me put it that way. In Nigeria at the primary and high school. So we weren't anywhere near that. But when I was 7 years old, I woke up one morning and I was, when the night before I was hearing the noises, and I knew it was my dad beating up my mom again. And it wasn't the first time. So in the morning I woke up, I went to my mom's room and she was sitting there, with bruises on her face and she was bleeding, seriously. And I wished I could do something about it, but I couldn't. But, I held her close and I promised that very day, I still remember vividly, I was 7 years old, that one day I will become a doctor and I will become an American citizen and I'll take him far away from here. And I think that lived with me for as long as it took me. I think my mom didn't come here until I was 33 years old. So it was 20-something years later when that eventually happened, But everything I did, I think that was the beginning of what drove me. The challenges I faced with going to schools that didn't prepare me to be successful, coming from a household that wasn't the best, in terms of, the violence and corporal punishments and all that. And then I walked 3 miles to school, back into school and back, since I was that little. And, even when the classes came down, we went to the bush to cut palm fronds and build classes on the field. And then when the rain started, the churches and the mosque in the area took us in. It was that bad, just to get education was a difficult thing. But the most challenging years, was when I was in college, pre-med and a vet school. And, it was hard to pay my tuition. And there were times I went days without food. I would just drink water, eat bread, with sugar and salt, so the one thing that kept me going, was because I made a promise to my mom. And I made a promise. That promise also extended to my siblings. And I was going to, dropping out of school wasn't an option for me. I never ever considered it, and that's eventually, I became a doctor, and after that was when things started happening. I got a nice job, and but at the same time, I knew though that my life was here. I always knew. I didn't lose focus even when things started getting better as a practicing surgeon. And when I got the opportunity to come down with past scholarship to the US, I took it and came down. And that was how my life started in the US. A lot of things about Nigeria. I know people see a lot of stuff about Africa on TV. A lot of them are true. A lot of them it may not be as. That's not the world depiction of what goes out there. But I experienced typical poverty that you see on the media. That when I was a teenager, not eating for days, walking miles and miles to exams, and not having food in my belly. Straight for 3 days, things like that. But I think it was worthwhile when I came to the US and I was in grad school. I was writing my board exams, and but I always knew I wanted to be in the military. So I remember I went for my last, and that's why I came to Raleigh. I came to interview at, I think it was University of North Carolina veterinary school. There's a veterinary school there. Yeah, that was one of the 3 schools that wanted me to get my residency with them over again in the US. I remember I went back home and told my wife, I'm going to join the military. He said, are you okay? You're a doctor, just, be a doctor, you're married, you have your green card now, permanent resident, and just practice and, do your residency again and you'll be fine. And first, I'm not sure I see myself spending the rest of my life in the clinic doing surgeries, number one. yeah, I can always do it. I have the qualification. Number two, I have a family in Nigeria that are counting on me. I think it's better for us to spend the first few years of our lives to invest in our lives, to give them some opportunities we have, and, so they can do what, they will with it. What they say, it's better to teach a man how to fish and not just keep giving a man fish, right? I can't just keep feeding someone, you got it. So and that was where, and a military would make that happen quickly. We were at a war then, and so I needed to go naturalize me fast once I show up to training, and the military did that for me, and that's how I fought for my mom. And then I was in the Navy. I'm not sure if you want me to stop up to when. I'm not sure if you wanted me to keep going about how I went.
Yeah, I'm interested. Like, so you saw the military as a quicker path to becoming full-time here in America, then not just a green card, but moving towards citizenship. Is that to what you were thinking?
Actually, there are about 2-3 things. Let me see if I can remember about things. It's a reason why I joined the military. So number one, I was looking for personal fulfillment, really. I was trying to find my purpose in life. I had my family, yes, and I knew I could achieve what I wanted to achieve, with my family. But me personally, why do I exist? What makes me happy? What change can I make while I'm alive? And I knew that would be for something that was so much more bigger than myself. And I couldn't quite figure it out, but I knew that going to the military was a challenge unlike no other that I had ever faced. And I knew I was ready for it deep down, because I was pretty much raised like a military kid with the kind of father that raised me, So the military couldn't be harder than leaving my house, That was the way I kind of imagined it. That was number one. And I felt if I could touch so many lives through military service, it's like, getting 2 for 1, I can do that. And then the same military, naturally, we're not sure because of what was going on there, I could get my citizenship instead of waiting 3 years, because I got my permanent residency through marriage, and that I needed to wait 3 years to naturalize. But the military, they care about that. As long as you come in, we had to enlist. I couldn't commission because I didn't have citizenship. So I enlisted instead. And also my wife had issues with, like, you're way too qualified to do that, but I did. I said, well, but I would get my citizenship file from my mom at the time so she can come over, right? And then the military on it, I think the third reason was, I was making enough money to fight for my mom and help my siblings. And so it's all weighing there. I don't see what's risky, the fear with, that we joined the military. And that was what the motivation, that was how I ended up in the military, but it didn't take long though for me to find out that I loved being in the military. It didn't take too long, and I knew immediately, like, yes, this is what I've been looking for. And that's it. And that's how I stayed in. And
so talk about you were a sailor, and then you became an airman in the Air Force, and then a guardian in Space Force. So tell us a little bit about that, because that's kind of interesting. Because most veterans I talk to, they do one. I've known several people who have done a couple of 2 services, but I've never met anyone that's done 3. So tell us a little bit about that. Why you made that shift and went into the missile silos in the Air Force.
Well, so it wasn't planned. It just happened. So in the Navy, after I was naturalized, I showed up to my first command, and I got my clearance. So I was automatically eligible to commission as an officer. So, but Navy didn't have veterinary field. That was number one, and they didn't have public health. They had environmental health. So when they offered me, options to commission, programs to commission into, they were mostly, like the job you had in the military, submarine officers, right? Being an officer or something like that they had that, or there was PA, And then, and most of the jobs really were really going to keep me at sea for the most part, honestly.
Yeah.
And I was already gone from my family, I think 3 years straight or so, So at that point, with my wife, my son and my daughter, and she was pregnant with my son. So we had to start reevaluating things. But I could leave the military and go and start practicing, or I said, well, I could commission into Air Force instead of the Navy if the concern was to. So it was more of a compromise, right? That, okay, I want to serve, but at the same time, I want to do my job as a father and as a husband, So that's how I went to the Air Force, and the plan was for me to commission as a public health officer. And then Air Force said they weren't looking at the time, and they had specific jobs that were available where I didn't care. I just applied to whatever they had. So anyways, and then I was offered. It was really interesting because my batch was the last batch for that entire year, and the Air Force stopped commissioning for that entire year. When I went in, I was one of the three applicants that were selected from the California and Arizona zones. You can imagine, that out of 80-something applicants. So that it was just, and as I knew there was something there for me, and I did question it. I said, okay, that's the job you guys are offering me, nuclear missile operations. Okay, I'll take it. But at the same time, I was surprised, why they gave me a job like that. I said, look, I'm an immigrant. That job required a high level of clearance,
Yeah.
Serious, scrutiny of your past and things like that. I wasn't concerned about that. I felt, really humbled by that. I didn't believe that was possible. So I was really excited, really. And then, I did that. I went from Navy, and then I did that, in the Air Force. And when my time was over, we were going to move down to East Coast. And so I wrote into reserves, right? And then the Air Force offered me an opportunity, in the Pentagon as a civilian. So I went there, and I was on reserve duty as well. So I was doing that, and my reserve time ended. And then we created Space Force. And when Space Force, after that happened, I was one of the inaugural members. I got promoted from the Air Force to Space Force to start put things together. So that's how I didn't.
I think you're the first Space Force. Someone who served in the Space Force. You're the first one, I think. So we have a lot of Air Force and Navy and Coast Guard, but I think you're the first Space Force, so we can check that box now.
Right, you have that down now. So, yep, yeah. What
I'm interested in is one of the things that's really unique about your story is perseverance. You persevered through tremendous obstacles. At any point in time, you could have quit. As you mentioned, you couldn't, when you were going through school in Nigeria, you said, I can't quit from my family, right? I have to do this. There is no failure. Failure is not an option. I've been through similar situations when I went through nuke power school. I was not up to speed compared to my peers. But I did not have a plan B. So I was like, I cannot fail. I have to get through this.
I have to get through. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you tell us a little bit about the character it takes to have that level of perseverance? How do you develop that? And, how can we help our listeners understand how to develop that level of perseverance that you are going to overcome no matter what comes your way? You are going to achieve your objectives.
I think, thanks, John. So, I think first, the challenges we face is very important, right? What challenges are we facing? What's our background like? Do we have a plan B? You mentioned that earlier. Do you have a plan B or not? This is not only the way out of my situation type of predicament. I think those are there, but also I think there's also the spiritual aspect of things where you latch onto something, and in my case, that was hope, And that's why I titled the book, Hope, I Memoir of Hope, Faith and the American Dream. There were times, and I remember vividly when I was just sitting by myself when I was a little boy, maybe on the field or somewhere, and I would just be crying. And I'm just asking, and I'd be asking, I said, God, why are these bad things happening? Why are there little kids, 5, 6-year-olds, just, hawking, with tree on their heads and selling things on the roads, and some of them get hit by the cars, and why are there are just so many things that just didn't seem right. So why can't things be better? And I have to make things better for me and my family, because I don't want to settle into this. It can be better, and then when you're watching American movies, Hollywood and all that, like, what is that? That's some people that live like that,
Yeah.
So, so I think, for me, that seed, that was sown into me, I think, because of what was going on. And I think the determination inside me was relentless. And I think I started going through things that started preparing me. But at the time, between my primary school and my first year in college, I think I had gone through enough things that there was nothing that was going to happen to me in college that I wasn't going to be able to overcome. I mean, and I'm going to give you a quick example. When I was writing my final year high school exams in Nigeria, there are 2 different type of exams, national exams you have to write to get into college. The exam board will decide which school center you will take your exams. He decided to put me and my brother like 13 miles away from the house, and we didn't have money to even take the bus, So my brother and I woke up very early in the morning. We quickly walked down to where the petrol tankers, the gas, they've got them gas here, like got them petrol tankers, like the 18-wheelers, right? Where they park. And they would like hang behind, the back of the tanker, with petrol, that was no child should be doing that. And then we would hide and just hold onto the ladder behind. And that would take us probably about 8 miles out, and then we walked the rest to the exam hall. And I did that for probably about 13 exams, I think, within 1 month. And I can tell you that 3/4 of those exams, I didn't eat before going to exams. I didn't eat when I came back, and I studied for the next one. So when I was in vet school, I was going through things, but I'd gone through similar things when I was younger. So that was no excuse, And then number 2, something inside me, just didn't change. I believed that if I kept going, if I stuck to, the plan, and if I continue to work hard and I keep my vision inside, right, that I was going to achieve it. I just had, even though I was in the middle of nowhere and it seemed impossible, I just never, faltered. I never doubted that it wasn't going to happen, And we know what that is when you were like that, the tendency, how you deal with disappointments can be rough because you believe and you kind of just have this faith that things are going to happen. And for years, those things didn't happen, But one thing I never did was to lose hope. And if anything, my faith got much stronger. And and every time things come up, I would say, I would just like, yeah, it's going to happen. And I close with this story. One of my friends, God bless his soul, and he's late now. When I came to the US and when I started working in the Pentagon, he just reached out to me. I remember, in the chat, he said, when in vet school, to be honest with you, we all thought you were crazy. You would say these things in class.
Yeah.
Or when we talk, when I visited you and we're hanging out, you're always saying these things. And we all thought this guy's going crazy because of frustration and whatever. But everything you said, you have achieved them. You have done them and you've achieved them. It's unbelievable, that we thought you were just going to give up at some point. And So I'll just say, honestly, I give credit to my maker, honestly, for building me that way. And also I genuinely care about people. And so imagine if imagine how I feel about my family. I just couldn't stand to see what's going on, no security. We're not guaranteed if we're going to go to bed and wake up the following day because things were just happening and you can get attacked or killed anytime. My mom was getting abused all the time. My brothers and myself, we ran into accidents multiple times on the bike. And then their human sacrifice souls for us too. So, every show one night you might get sent on an errand and we not come back home. That would happen. Yeah. So I think those things were tough things, but I think those things really prepared me.
I love it. I love the story. The book is fascinating. What final message would you like to leave with our listeners?
Oh, thank you. So the final message is that you have to know, I heard that some people don't believe in American dream anymore. That's not a thing anymore, but I respectfully disagree. I think for all of us, American dream is now having millions of dollars in your account, a wife, 2 kids, and a dog. You have to figure out what your American dream is. My American dream started with my mom building a life for my mom and my family in the United States. And when I achieved that, I figured out quickly that there's so much more I could do with my life. There's so much more I could still achieve. So you need to know what your dream is. And then you need to set goals. You need to plan, you need to set goals, and then you need to act. Faith, I'm a Christian and I like to say this, quite a bit, that faith without work is dead. You have to do the work. You have to be consistent. You have to keep doing what it takes to get to your desire, to go to your dream. You have to envision it, and then you have to do the work. And when you face challenges, especially failures, we need to know that our life are only meaningful because of the challenges we face. Imagine a life without challenges. I'm not sure if that's a word of life. It's literally nothing happening to you. So when we face challenges, we embrace them and believe that when you fail, it just means that that's not the right thing for you to do. There's a lesson to learn. Take that lesson learned and with you, and then move forward, press forward. More often than not, we never really achieve the things we want to achieve the way we thought we could achieve them. A lot of times something will happen and we have to be on a different path, but in the end, we achieve the same result or something even better. It may not just be exactly the way we planned. So always see that as someone guiding you to where you're going to, because you're still doing the work. And to round this off, I want that this, my book is not, honestly, when I released the book, I wasn't thinking much about sales. I was just thinking about how it would impact people, that please, hope and faith, it's real. You got to keep that. Hold on tight to that. If you don't know much about that, read about it. You have to be a Christian or Muslim or religious to have faith. People have faith in different things, but whatever it is, latch onto it, and it will give you the strength, to keep pressing. So that's all I have. Thank you very much for having me, Jeff.
That's fantastic. So how can our listeners find out more about you and this new book?
Yes. So the one-stop shop is my website, and that's www.dejiayoade.com. So single word, DEJIAYOADE.com. And just navigate around that page and you will find, the books, and click on them, take you, you can find the booking, Amazon and Barnes and Nobles, it's all over the place. Or you can just Google my name and my book, Underground Deji Ayoade, on Google, and you'll see all the places you can find the book. But on my website, you get a chance to listen to my podcasts and my articles, published articles and things like that. So, my website is the best.
Fantastic. And we're going to put links to the show notes just so you don't have to spell that. So we'll get the links in there and you can check it out. And I've been on the website, lots of great information there. You get to hear more about Deji's story and this book. It's fascinating. Again, I think there's a lot of lessons here as leaders that we need to take away from this idea of perseverance, never quitting, having a goal, a vision. I love how Deji says, what is your American dream? It doesn't have to be what society says is American dream. Find yours, achieve it. And again, I think part of the story is leaving a positive legacy for your family and for those around you. Think about what Deji went through and all the things he's achieved, and think about the lessons he's leaving for his children, that you can overcome almost any obstacle. And I love that lesson. And I love that legacy. And part of what we have to do as leaders is leave a positive legacy to those around us. Deji has done it. He tells us how he did it in his book. I highly encourage you to check it out and learn more about his story. It's a very unusual story, and it's one story of perseverance and achieving really things that are frankly impossible for people to do. Deji did it. And I think that's what makes this story so remarkable. So I encourage listeners, you check it out and follow the links below in the show notes, and you can check it out and learn more about Deji and his story. Deji, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I love your story. Thank you for your service. Thank you for inspiring us all to dream a little bigger and to persevere through those. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, John, thank you so much for having me on your show. I was looking forward to this, and I'm really glad I got the opportunity to speak with you. This is wonderful. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.